importance of reading and writing with a view to the underprepared student. A little about me. A great place to start is usually the beginning, so let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Elizabeth Charisse, and as well as being a bookworm and a novice writer, I am also a student of the Master of Education program at Northeastern University. And I'm excited to share this presentation with you today, and I thank you for being here. How one arrives at a topic for writing. 10 weeks ago, I was tasked with finding a controversial issue in higher education. Feeling somewhat pressed for time, I quickly chose a topic and commenced copious amounts of journal reading. Yet the more I read, the less my presentation took shape. 2 weeks ago, in a discussion on an unrelated assignment, a seed was planted. I tried to fight the notion of changing topics after so much research had already been done, but it was too late. I tossed weeks' worth of work to the side and dove with eyes wide open into something that fit me as naturally as my own skin. Books, reading, writing. It turns out that sometimes you don't choose a topic chooses you. Why one writes. You see, I developed very early a love for books, and I recognize today that love, that gift, is what has made me such a successful student. It is this deeply personal connection to the written word that brings me here today to discuss the current state of affairs of the woefully underprepared students enrolling in our post-secondary institutions. An unpreparedness that I suggest stems from reading, or should I say, a lack thereof. I will begin this presentation with a look at underprepared students, a growing population entering higher education institutions. Next, I will discuss reading, what it is and why it is important. From there, I will explore the inherent bond between reading and writing. Then I will address the gap in what is being done in higher education in support of this issue. And finally, I will conclude and offer some thoughts for future consideration. There is growing evidence that America's college-bound students are ill-equipped to cope with the rigors of reading, writing, and comprehending at a college level. As many as 60% of students entering college today are underprepared. And with 21 million enrollments in 2011, that percentage becomes more relevant and more shocking. And just as access expands, so too does the problem. In the 1960s, open-door admissions policies of community colleges, as well as an increase in the number of community colleges, attracted even more underprepared students. Today, students of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities are entering our post-secondary institutions, and access continues to expand with legislation such as Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Federal grants and funding continue to provide access to college for students who would not be able to attend otherwise. And there is a price of this underpreparedness, and it is daunting. Indeed, there is a conservative estimate that the annual cost to remediate underprepared students is more than $1 billion nationally at public colleges. That is a price tag that does not consider the cost to the students themselves. It is not inclusive of private or for-profit schools, and it does not consider the increase in such costs over the last 16 years. A look at the underprepared cohort. Many students leave high school without the skills necessary to succeed in college, despite test scores that demonstrated signs of a student in need of educational assistance. That assistance and counseling is not provided. Furthermore, there has been an influx of adult students either going to college for the first time or going back after a long hiatus. and their skills were either never developed or lost. The costs for these underprepared students are high. They are more likely to take remedial courses that add to overall cost but not credits. It will take them longer to obtain a degree, and many who enter college facing these challenges will leave without ever graduating. From a faculty perspective, one of the greatest demands on students attending post-secondary institutions is the comprehension of many different texts. This kind of reading requires focus and flexibility. Faculty value a kind of complexity of thought that first-year college students usually have not yet developed. Indeed, it has been shown that undergraduate reading strategies are largely primitive, with little or no effort given towards deepening comprehension. Moreover, the use of non-standard English, incoherent writing, and lack of revision skills among both native and non-native English speakers has been reported. Clearly, there is a disconnect, one that leaves everyone at a disadvantage. It is a lose-lose situation, and before we can think of solutions, we must first define the root of the problem. Reading is not just seeing. Reading is not a mechanical endeavor. It is not about rote memorization or a collection of facts to be highlighted for a test. Reading is about expanding your universe, making connections between new material and all of the experiences you have had up to that point. Reading is about asking questions. It is not accepting something simply because it is written. It is going beyond the confines of the words themselves to find the world they fit into. Reading is not about scratching the surface. It is about digging deeply into the text, making it personal, making it yours. The importance of reading. I can hardly overstate the significance of this critical skill. Reading is not exhausted merely by decoding the written word, but rather anticipated by and extending into knowledge of the world. Reading the world precedes reading the word. The understanding attained by critical reading of a text implies perceiving the relationship between text and context. Yet, there must also be the understanding that reading is not the exclusive domain of the English language humanities departments. Indeed, reading is essential to all facets and all departments of higher education, as well as to the world outside of our post-secondary institutions. A skilled reader can open doors that the unskilled reader doesn't even know exist. The reading and writing connection. While reading and writing integration is an area that is relatively underexplored, it is commonplace in most academic settings and critical for academic success. Reading and writing go hand in hand, a fact that is evident through all levels of the education system and across all disciplines. Can you count the number of assignments you have completed or given that involved reading something and then writing? It may be easier to count how many you didn't. A few thoughts on writing. There is a common belief that writing is writing, and that if you are taught the basics, you are either good at it or you are not, that either you can do it or you cannot. In pop culture vernacular, the greats weren't great because at birth they could paint. The greats were great because they paint a lot. In other words, to write well, one must do the work. Writing is not solely a talent. Writing is a skill set that can be developed over time. So now that we have a better understanding of the problem, let's discuss some approaches. There's the dangerous approach, lowered standards. It's an ugly thought and one generally not discussed openly. Is an A less valuable today than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago? While it is certain that some institutions and faculty have lowered their standards, there is no evidence of its widespread practice. Yet there are whispers and rumors, and that alone demands that I at least mention it. There would be enormous repercussions for such an approach, and they are far too wide to address in this presentation. It should, however, be considered for future study. A convenient solution, remediation, and also the most common. However, its success is questionable and data is limited. What we do know is this: 14% of students who begin studies at a community college do not complete a single credit in their first term. 1/4 of entering fall term students do not return for the spring term, and almost half are gone by the second fall term. Less than 30% will earn an associate's degree in 3 years, and fewer than half will earn a bachelor's degree in 6. Those who require remediation are less likely than their more prepared counterparts to achieve a degree. And that being the case, the question must be asked: does remediation work? Then there is the uncommon approach. There may be another way. Bring reading development into first-year university courses. If teachers explicitly teach students how to read academic texts, aligned in courses where students have ample opportunities to engage in reading activities throughout the term, students are more likely to adopt a deep approach to reading. This approach is more complicated to initiate and requires whole communities of disparate departments to come together to integrate reading across a vast curriculum. There are also too few studies of this kind to generalize the results. However, with such limitations in mind, current studies are showing promising results. Concluding comments. There is a definite and growing population of underprepared students. Studies have been shown to link student success with reading and writing skills. Deeper, closer reading leads to better writing, and better reading and writing skills contribute to positive student outcomes. The influx of underprepared students strains higher education on numerous levels, from the academic, administrative, and legal to the financial and social aspects of our institutions. Student and faculty satisfaction both suffer. Moreover, the current approach to the problem that lay largely with remediation is in that it is a questionable solution with limited success. Another possible approach to closing the gap between prepared and underprepared students is gaining momentum, that of bringing close reading into the entire curriculum of first-year students. However, more studies must be done in order to generalize the results. And I would like to part with some words from my own experience. Books saved me from my childhood. I grew up in a toxic and wildly unstable environment and learned about the world through the pages of books. I know what it's like to grow up without help and without expectations. I should have been one of the underprepared, but I wasn't. It was because of books. Reading brought me here. My hard work will bring me the rest of the way. I believe that in giving these underprepared students the right tools, they too will find success. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I thank you for being here.